Yep.
Good evening and welcome to the West Canada Valley Board of Education meeting for March. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some special guests here tonight and a familiar face. Mr. Shepherdson, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
We good to go? Is it me first?
What's that?
Is it me first?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. It's good to be back. Just to kind of take you through, I appreciate you giving me a little bit of time. I'll try not to, get crazy boring with this. I want to, allow some of the people I have here to talk a little bit about some of the things here, and I want to give you a little idea of how we're structured, maybe a little bit different than last year. Everybody is familiar with Mr. Picola. Jim Picola, been at BOCES for a long time. He's obviously been a big part of the project. He'll talk a little bit about the project update with you tonight when we get to that point. But one of the things that's changed with Jim is that we've gotten him a little bit more involved with the finances. Before in his assistant superintendent position, he was just a little bit more human resources, operations, that kind of stuff. But we've added the finance piece into that, so we can start to dig into a few things that are, we want to get a little bit more, efficient on. Mr. Dan Henner is our new business administrator. He's replacing the guy to your right, who I'm not letting go just yet. So Dan, we hired in December to take over the business administrator position. So he is handling the day-to-day operations in our business office right now. And with the help of Mr. Coop, who is hung on a per diem for a little while here in our transition period to keep things rolling, especially with the project going on and so forth. So that's sort of our business staff that's here, and they've been kind of going on the tour with me in most cases where we can, and sort of taking us through that. So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, I have essentially everybody here. I'm going to take you through the presentation. I'll give you a little background on it, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Henner and then Mr. Coop, and then finally with Mr. Picola. So you'll see throughout the presentation, heavy focus on CTE this year. I'm going to start bringing in some of the other programs that we have as I start.
Part of the proceeds and draw it down as we used it, and that
to generate interest income, offset the $2,000 increase. So, and Kelly already has her bill for next year that shows that, reflects that. But when there's BOCES expense, it drives BOCES aid, that's your revenue. The unique thing about interest expense is it also drives interest revenue. So you can actually have $100,000 in expense. In the case of West Canada, you get 75% of that back in BOCES aid the next year. But you could also invest, the number we used was $5 million at 4% for 6 months, so you can have $100,000. You can invest the $5 million until you draw it all completely down and generate $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000, depending on what the interest rates are. So it is a big number and it jumps out percentage-wise, but similar to the way your component district budget works when you go for your community, they have to approve the whole spending plan, even if it's not affecting their the local tax levy. So it's similar here. It's not going to be billed back to the districts, but even for us to consider doing the borrowing, which we may or may not do, it has to be in the budget, in the administrative budget. It's the only place we can put interest. Any questions?
Thanks, Steve. So this goes into what Mr. Schatzel was just saying. So there's things that we can do as we dig into this, and that's part of some of the sort of tasks that we're working on in the business office. BOCES has some different regulations and rules and things that we can do that maybe districts can't. And there's reasons for all that, but there's ways of doing things financially. So not only can we maximize the aid for the districts, but there's ways that we can do a couple different things. In particular, this one right here could become a revenue source for everybody. And keep in mind, and I'll explain this a little bit further later, that whatever revenue expenses we make, so in your district here, like if you have revenues or you underspend your budget, that goes into like your savings account, your general fund. For us, that all goes back to you. So if we underspend the budget by $1 million, that all goes back to all 10 districts. You get that in the refund check. Now, Kelly might be calling going, where the heck's our refund check? It's like everybody waiting for their refund, okay? And the reason that gets delayed sometimes is because we're short on money, just like you're short on money in the fall. We're waiting for all that to catch up with each other and then we get that. Again, going this summer, I'm not going to say that it'll happen right away, but we're hoping that creating some of this revenue and creating this funding maybe through the borrowing piece, we can get West Canada and all the other districts back their money quicker so they're not waiting. So when you're short on money in September, we can get you that money back to keep you going a little bit, okay? Because right now, this may allow us to do that. And on top of that, be able to create some revenue. Again, people have asked what kind of revenue we're talking about. I don't know. I know it's not gonna be negative, so we're gonna make at least something off of it. And depending on how the interest rates are and so forth, we can make some money. That's one example.
Is there a time frame it has to be returned by?
The refund check to you? Yeah, when do we, September-ish, October, when do we send the refunds?
There's not, I don't think there's at least not that I'm aware of, there's not a time frame.
Not a set
Until
time.
the end of the next
But
fiscal
we get
year.
them into the fall. Now, when we send their refunds from the previous year.
They're usually in the spring, March, April.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's generally what it is. So anyway, that's sort of the, that's sort of the breakdown of that. So when you saw that big number on the front, so for this year, you're gonna see the big number. If everything works in a business cycle the way we want to, that number will be the same next year, or if they let us do a little bit more, that's it. So, yeah, so I think that answers that piece of that. Okay, I think I know this one now, so I won't even make them stop here. So transfer charges, so this is an area or category that we have to have. This is another one of those shared areas. Most of what you have on there, you'll see over time the computer support's increased to 14, to 28, to 30. That's not because we increased all this computer support money, we're spending a lot more. That's because they're requiring us to share and identify a little more specific. So if you think about your budgets here and Kelly having to put together budgets that are specific to elementary and specific to whatever, we have to categorize that we have 8 computers in whatever office that is, and we have to put them into there. So once those rules changed over the last 2 years, we had to jump that next year, and then it's up a little bit. So we're pretty good with it right now in terms of the cost, but that's that small number there where we're accounting for in the admin budget, computer technology. So there's your number we have for your post-employment health insurance. Again, those are our big numbers here, and those are the things as you go through your budget. We spend a lot of time here talking about, all those other numbers, but the truth of the matter is when you look at whatever your budget is, these are the big numbers that kind of roll in that are sort of dictated for the most part to us. We hope that they won't cost as much as that, but, you know, the anticipated costs and projected costs are all there for you, in terms of post-employment benefits. Okay, the Arwada, that's our BOCES term, everybody kind of knows that, it's been around. So this is your big pie here of the budget. It lists all 10 districts that are in our BOCES. You'll see Central Valley obviously is our largest district, and you can see what their portion of the budget, the admin budget is in this situation. And you can see where West Canada is down on the bottom area. That's not in order, by the way, you're not the smallest, but you can see that ODY is the smallest there and what their portion of it is. And it's all based on what is called our WADA numbers. I get a lot of questions about enrollment numbers and what our, like the enrollment numbers don't match. Keep in mind when we talk about our WADA numbers, it's kind of in the area of enrollment, but it's not apples to apples. So if you have 600 kids, it doesn't mean your WADA is going to say 600. Those numbers aren't. But it's still generally proportioned by the size of the school, and then that becomes your BOCES cost for the year. Now, as Steve mentioned, this is where we start to generate, and we're looking at, you know, the aid that'll come back on that and so forth to the districts. So here's the good chart for this year. So here's your WADA for your administrative and capital charges, and you can follow your lines all the way across from 24-25 all the way through to 25-26. And then you start to see the dollar change, and for West Canada Valley, minus $122,144 from the previous year. So you're down 10.44%. In these two combined for this budget that you're voting on. I wish that was because I'm working and these guys are working some miracle here, but that's not what it is. It's just the natural, you know, lowering of your costs that you're paying toward the BOCES project. So the capital costs continue to go in that direction, and that number continues to go there as well. So you see everybody was in a negative. Last year, the only district that wasn't in a negative was Dowsville, or didn't have, and that was because they kind of did some weird things with their payments and stuff. So, but other than that, everybody's kind of on the same track of that. We've been this year too trying to get out the admin and capital, so we've had a couple different versions of this that may or may not have been shared with you. Well, as we get numbers and we update numbers and adjust the calculations, we're trying to give you the most accurate. So obviously, by the time you're voting on that, you have the final cost for that. Okay, so I'll take you through this. I could use this just at West Canada if I wanted to too. Your uncontrollable costs, all your contracts, your health insurance, your retirement health insurance. The difference, as I mentioned, for here at BOCES, and we've talked about that in here in the past, and I'm sure Jeremy talks about it, is, you know, when you're talking about transportation with Felix, you know, you're getting 90% back or close to it on everything you spend there. You're getting 70+% here on everything that you spend on the BOCES the following year. So where it makes sense to use BOCES and so forth, as long as those aid numbers for this district in particular are there, and it makes sense to use BOCES and get programs, I mean, you're getting over $7 back on every 10. So, you know, it's probably the biggest bang for your buck where it makes sense for you to use BOCES services and those kinds of things. Here's my little sales pitch. So it is though. The truth of the matter is all of you have always been really good about the BOCES piece and supporting all those things because it's important for the kids here too. The other part of it that I think is you know, the money each district spends at BOCES is aided back as opposed to not aided expenditures in your district. So everything you spend here comes out of your own budget, and your taxpayers' budget, and any state aid that you have. You know, all of the money at BOCES comes from the district, so all that money is from all 10 districts. There's no tax, you know, we don't issue any tax levies to any communities or any of that. That all comes from you and what you drive the spending of that and how much is spent in the programs and so forth down there. And any proposed spending that doesn't occur that year, and again, at BOCES, things fluctuate a lot more than in districts, so the spending fluctuates. So try to keep those costs down, but you get kids added. I mean, we're constantly enrolling kids and enrolling them all year long. So it's not like here where you get a few here and there. So it's kind of crazy sometimes. But regardless of it, at the end of the day, whatever is not spent doesn't get put into some general fund or anything else. It gets returned back to the districts, and that's what I was speaking about earlier with the refund checks. You know, I'll put in a little bit of a pitch. You know, sometimes. And again, I don't have to say that here too much, but sometimes when budgets get talked about, they start to get a little tight. I think some districts start to look at areas where, you know, can we bring kids back so the BOCES bill goes down to the district? Can we not send as many kids down there? Can we not spend as much down the BOCES? Because in those cases, you can save a lot of money in the short term with that, because it costs money to send kids down there. But then you bring them back, and you gotta add in the cost of what you're doing to try to support those kids back in your own district at that time. But bigger than that, your aid in the next couple of years is gonna go down. So I've
Can you
had,
expand on that?
yeah, so.
Costs more to bring them back here.
It can, okay, so sometimes when you're cutting budgets, so you're going, okay, we gotta find $100,000. Sometimes it's easy to say, let's cut $100,000 out of the BOCES budget, because nobody gets affected internally here, you're not cutting people, you're not doing that. And it's true, it's $100,000, we can cut that budget down by $100,000. But keep in mind, you're getting $75,000 back on that 100 you spent. So, for right now, you picked up 100, 2 years later, you call up and you go, hey, how come my BOCES aid went down 75 grand? And you're like, that's because you spent $100,000 last the year before, and now it's coming back at you. So you just got to keep that in mind. Kelly does a great job, so that's less of a factor here. Some districts rely on that kind of like thing. So yes, it's important in every district, but the way we've always kind of budgeted here is that's an unknown all the time and what the program, so it becomes part of how we budget, and I think that's smart. Yeah, I think that's it. Any other questions on that budget summary piece? Anything on the administrative capital, anything that I didn't cover before we get into the project piece with you? You had a question, Mr. Shep. So there's a lot of things. We have a lot of different programs, from adult programs all the way down. So there's some ways I think we can maximize some funding, and whether it's through grants or through just revenue, through efficiency things we can do down there to be a little bit better. So the problem is, over time, the day-to-day for Steve, when he worked there, is so much work and constant flow, it's hard to dig into projects like pre-K and some other things that we want to improve on money-wise. And anything we do to improve that, obviously, it helps all the 10 districts. So, we've gotten off to a good start this year with that.
Well, again, you mentioned efficiency. I mean, that's kind of a broad term.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can come down and visit me if you want to talk details, but I can tell you a little bit. Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
So 3rd floor, yeah. So when you talk about efficiency, like workflow, things are taking a long time that we could probably move quicker through on workflows from the 10 districts. Maybe sometimes it's digital stuff. Maybe it's relocating people to different spots. Maybe it's through some attrition of things when people retire. Maybe we can reallocate some certain things, some costs of those things. There's a lot of different things. Sometimes. There's areas that we might have a grant that we overspend because it costs more money to run the program than the grants allow for it. So we got to figure out ways to try to balance that. Yeah. So I mean, we could sit down and talk.
Well, last time you were here, you said the same thing. You were making some changes. Have you moved in that direction?
Yeah, I think quite a bit. Yeah, year and a half. It hasn't been that long, but yeah, I was only a few months there, so I got a taste of it. So yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction here. I think things are kind of coming along. Yep. Any other questions? All right, let me, couple dates to remember just to give you an idea. Thursday, April 3rd is our annual meeting down in the web lobby. Little Falls is the host this year. They took over, originally it was CVA, but they had a conflict, so Little Falls and CVA switched. So Little Falls is the host this year. And they'll run it. I think their president cannot be there that night, so Frank Mendel, their vice president, will run the business meeting that night. That'll be kind of a celebration. We have a whole kind of thing. There'll be food there. There'll be a few different things. We'll honor some students there that night and so forth. But that'll be the night of April 3rd. And then on Wednesday, April 16th is the day that all 10 component districts vote on the BOCES budget and the election of the board members. Whenever you guys decide on that day, you're going to have your special meeting. A couple more pictures of your students and a couple different programs that are down there. Okay, so if there's no questions on the budget, again, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Picola. Wanted to give you an update on the project, which is really flying along here, and then a little bit about the planning of the next phase of that. So Jim, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, thank you for having us tonight. I'll start off by saying the overall theme of the project is ahead of schedule and under budget. We're really, really pleased with the progress that we're seeing from the construction companies, the quality of craftsmanship. The designs are really coming through the way we expected them to. I will also say that the pictures that are in your handouts and on the screen are from early January and are not at all reflective of where we are today. Those of you who've been through projects know that things move quickly. But basically what I'll share is the special education wing is going to be turned over back to the BOCES within the next week or two at the latest. They're doing the final touches right now, punch lists, things like that, which is really exciting. We weren't expecting to see the remaining classrooms until the end of August, so we're well ahead of schedule in that area. The exception to that in terms of special ed wing is what used to be the pool, which is that picture you see in the first picture with those white tile looking things. And then the special education office. Those are the two areas that won't be done before the end of the school, may be done, but probably won't be done before the end of the school year. And just to give you an idea of progress, the pool, what you're looking at in that first one, that's styrofoam that they put together almost like Legos to fill the pool, to bring it up to the level. And then they poured, I think it was 5 inches of concrete over top of that to create the new floor. And that's all poured and ready. There are pictures on our website that I update every month. There are much newer pictures than this. The middle picture, the hallway, that kind of gives you a sense of where things are going. Again, that's incomplete at that point, but the place is bright with the new lighting. The walls with the tile are going to be highly durable and they look sharp. The floors, we did an epoxy floor, which is highly durable and really should last a very, very long time. So special ed wing is nearly done at this point. The second area that we started tackling in January, right after the Christmas break, was the upper tech ed hallway from the old Leatherstocking classroom down to the ramp that goes to the lower CTE area, if you can picture our building. On the front side of the building, we did 1 or 2 rooms at a time, just doing HVAC work and above ceiling type work. We didn't really do a lot in those spaces other than the infrastructure stuff. So they ended up with new ceilings and new lights, but otherwise generally looked the way they did before. We did put fresh paint on to clean them up a bit. The back side of the hallway, which was Leatherstocking, the old broadcasting studio, and some offices, that was a full-out gut, and we're turning into special education classrooms. We're picking 5 classrooms in that area, I believe it is, including a teaching kitchen for the special ed students. In the old special ed wing, there used to be a kitchen that our students could do home and careers type activities. That's gone, so we replaced it in the center of the building. Conceptually, high school special needs children will be down that wing towards CTE a little bit, and they're the ones that would utilize that kitchen the most.
Are any of the special ed kids moving back there this
So yes.
year?
So yes, so what will happen is, because we are so far ahead of schedule, extended school year will be hosted at the Web this year, as opposed to Little Falls, Benton Hall, where it was last year. And then by the fall, we're restructuring where special ed will be permanently, but most of those kids will go back into the, it's 10 classrooms, I think it's 14 or 15 new classrooms. Those will all be filled in the fall with special ed. So the big news is, I just buried the headline, is summer school will be at the Web this year for the special education students. That was not part of the plan, but that's how far ahead of schedule we are. We're really excited about that. The big caveat to that is there will not be air conditioning in that building this summer. You've all heard me say for a couple of years that the cooling tower is running on Band-Aids and rubber bands. This summer is when they take it down, they have to trench the driveways, do all the new plumbing and stuff. So we do have children in the building that have special accommodations for their climate control. We do have a plan in place using what amounts to portable air conditioners. They're commercial sized ones, but they amount to that to make sure those rooms are appropriate for the children through the summer months. Looking forward through the summer, summer is going to be mostly about the tech ed wing, the lower shop areas. And the phrase I'm using, it's going to be highly disruptive this summer. They are in every room at some point all summer long, doing HVAC, lighting, cleaning and painting the roof decks. It's all that just stuff you have to be there for. So we're working with the administration in the building to make sure that we're accommodating the needs of the students who are in the building for the summer. But it's going to be a highly disruptive and busy summer. for construction at the web.
Can you put a number of students that are these services?
So on the tech ed side, we run the summer youth employment program, so that's probably 20 to 30 students, I don't know the exact number. For an extended school year, I would guess it's about 100. Again, not positive of that. But we're confident we have plans in place. Special ed wing will be essentially fully operational. The upper CTE hallway will essentially be fully operational, so we're really confident we're ready to go. Looking ahead to phase 2, I guess I'm supposed to be clicking this one. So there you go. Phase 2 is focusing primarily on the REM building. A lot of the things that we've been talking about for the last couple of years will happen. HVAC work, fire safety, telecom, things like that. One of the changes that we did look at a little bit was we're going to expand the air conditioning a little bit in that building. Originally, the intent was to do to refresh the rooms that were air conditioned already and make sure that they were all functioning properly. Through the conversations with Cabinet, the discussion has been that let's expand air conditioning to the entire building, which does come with a price tag. However, we've saved that much money in phase 1 that we're still well within our $50 million project. So we felt like this was a really strong bang for our buck, because what will be able to happen is once the REM building is completed and it's air conditioned, we'll be able to run regional summer school out of the REM building instead of renting from Central Valley every summer or one of the other districts. So really everything we're doing is trying to make things a little easier for our host districts overall. REM building will see some upgrades to the tech classroom. There's a family consumer science classroom, science lab, the kitchen area, and a couple other small things, but for the most part, it's all about the infrastructure work there. At the web, we will continue to do work at the web. There's much less work in phase 2, but we do have a secure entryway that we're going to put in that many of the districts have gone to. Upgrade the food service kitchen, and the covered playground in the back in the special ed wing. We're going to try to redo that. That's probably his old design, and it looks it. So that's the area we're going to do there. We are currently in the planning phase for our planning stages of phase 2 with the architects and engineers. We've been working on it for a while, and just starting this month, we've gotten to the point where we've asked specific teachers to become involved in the conversations. Those who know our programs, Adam Spotto is the tech ed teacher for the REM building. So just last week, we had a probably 2-hour meeting with him and the architects, and he kind of went through all the things he does in that program. They took copious mad notes, and now we'll come back with some design based on that. We're meeting with science teacher, family consumer science as well in the future for that area. And we have a couple of smaller areas on the web that will have some people there. In terms of the project phase 2 itself, well, phase 1, our expected substantial completion will be by the end of August, so before the beginning of the school year, we should be substantially complete with phase 1. Phase 2, if things are continue to go as planned, we will send plans to SED in the early fall, with the hope to see the SED approval in the January, February timeframe, get out to bid in the I'll call it late winter, early spring, with construction beginning in the summer of '26 and going through to substantial completion in December of '27. That's kind of where we are right now, and I'm happy to entertain any questions. Again, I encourage you, if you haven't done it, go on our website. There are thousands of pictures, but I do promise I do them by month, so you can just go to the latest pictures to see where we are. I do try to put out updates fairly regularly. I just sent one out, towards the end of last week, I just sent one out, so I don't know if it made it to your board packet or not.
I sent them out in the weekly emails.
Okay, perfect. That really is the best and most up-to-date information, certainly far more accurate than anything I put together in January. And I'll continue to try to put those out, and if you ever have questions, feel free to either funnel through Jeremy to me or send me a note directly. It's okay too. And we'll keep those going. My theory behind those, I put those updates out when there's something worth talking about. because I know you're all busy and you have lots to do and to read, so I try to make them substantial. We did have a facilities committee meeting about a week ago now. A lot of the same conversation. They toured the building and had lots of questions, and we continue to utilize their expertise as well moving forward. On April 3rd for the annual meeting, we will be doing tours, and if you haven't been to our building in a couple of years, I really encourage you to come and just see how much different it is and how much better it looks and how far we've come.
Jim, how does the Remington project affect the programs there? Is that going to be impacted or?
So the good news with the phase 2 work right now, we expect, once we move the web students back to the web, we'll have plenty of internal swing space to work that. So they may be in different classrooms in different wings at different points in the year, but right now, it would seem we keep everybody right there the whole time.
Thanks.
Yep. All right, thank you very much.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
You mentioned upgrading your kitchens down there. What do you do with all your old supplies?
It'll likely go to scrap metal because they're original to the buildings.
Okay, I just didn't know if you offered them to the districts, if they had, you know, stuff, your stuff was better than what they had.
Oh,
or something
I
like
can
that.
say with 100% certainty that there's
Yeah.
nothing. you
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know the other.
No, I
districts or
appreciate that,
anything,
but
I was just wondering what you
actually,
involved
some of
with.
our stuff is hand-me-down from Central Valley.
Okay.
So, yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
that
that's all
that
then.
thought process.
What time is that meeting on April 3rd?
It's the annual meeting, so 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Yeah, so, we'll walk people through, just do an informal tour of the spaces and show you what we have.
Just a quick question, I guess I forgot, you had a pool down there?
Had, yes.
What programs do you use for that?
I've been at BOCES for over 20 years, and that pool was operational for a handful of days over those 20 years. It leaked, it couldn't maintain time, it was, so it had, effectively, if you were to look through, you would see pictures, it was really just a storage bin. It was loaded with old furniture that we, so that first picture, I can't go backwards, but that first picture of the styrofoam, that room is actually going to be our OT-PT therapy room after construction, which will get much more use. Yeah, that. Question? Oh, okay. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Just a couple things to add on to what Jim had to say. Project's gone really well. We haven't run into a lot of, disruptions like you have, and you've been doing projects here. So all the contingency dollars and all those kinds of things, we really haven't had to tap in. We ran into a little bit of asbestos, but that was it, surprisingly. I'm not gonna lie, when I got down there, especially after being here and how much stuff I've done here, walking around there maybe a little nervous, looking at all the stuff that needed to be done there, and there's work got to be done. But this was a lot of nuts and bolts, for those of you that are around for our project before, where we were doing plumbing and HVAC, that's kind of what this is. Like even the Remington building is getting it up to where it needs to be, but it's not, you're not gonna see like this brand new building or anything like that. But all the things that make your building run that we've always talked about, that's gonna keep it going are being done. So that's good down there right now. And we've been fortunate to keep it moving along. Like I said, we're way ahead of schedule on that. Could we move, well, you asked the question, could we move special ed? I'm not gonna transition that. Could we? Potentially we could. But I don't see any reason for 2 months to do that. We'll start in the summer. I don't think the Remington, as Jim said, will be affected too much either. Like he said, I think it'll be internal shifting, but everything will be there. And then a few years down the road, we're gonna talk a little bit more about what the programs are gonna be in that building too. Because I wanna maximize Remington a little bit more than we do right now. So, any questions at all? I know you got a ton to do. Anything about programs, anything at all from the budget, anything about projects, anything at all? What you need? All right, I appreciate it, you guys. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
All right, have a good budget discussion here. All right, ready, guys? Ready. See you guys.
your special guest tonight? Is it Miss or Mrs.? Mrs. Loomis from Special Ed is gonna give us a report.
Hi everyone, it's nice to see you again. I can start by saying it's been a great year and a half since I've started here. I have a great crew that I work with in the special ed department. We service a lot of great children and we're working right along to get them the accommodations that they need to make them successful. We're in our busy part of the season. It is now annual reviews, so I get to see the faces of a lot of parents for the next 3 months. Just making sure that every student their needs are met and they're progressing through school as we would like them to. Our biggest thing is to push for success, and that's where we're really working right now. We're continuously looking for new ideas and new programming for some of our students. We've had a lot of high-need students come in, and we're always working to better what we have here to be able to help them. DJ talked a little bit about programming and whatnot, and we utilize BOCES a lot with a lot of our students. And it's a great success for all of them. They thrive here, they thrive there, but what we look at is what's best for them. I've had the pleasure of working with so many great parents who push for success for their own students. That makes my job a little bit easier every day when they want to work with me on that. But overall, it's been a great year and a half, and I look forward to seeing what this continues to bring for me.
I'm trying to understand your program. Give me a normal day.
So a normal day, an upcoming normal day for me is I have, like tomorrow I have 9 meetings on my schedule where I meet with 9 different students, and we talk about what they've done this year, how they've grown, what we are looking at for next year, programming wise, like whether it's 504 or IEP, so they're special education students. What kind of needs we need to meet in the classroom for them. Do they need extra time? Do they need tests read to them because they're struggling in those areas? So that's gonna be my given day for the next 2 months. Before that, we do a lot of paperwork, just trying to make sure we have everything in play for them. A lot of that comes from conversations with the special education teachers, who I work very closely with to make sure that those students' needs are being met, because it's a federal mandate that we meet those needs. So that's how my day rolls quite a few days.
Any other questions?
How many students do we have that go to BOCES for?
We have
Primary
currently,
and intermediate?
currently we have, I wanna say, there's 25 currently within the BOCES programs, and that's pre-K through 12.
Okay.
A lot of those are in some of the higher needs programs. They have the 1211s, 613s, 612s.
So they don't come here at all?
No, those ones are directly, they get bused from home to there.
Okay. And then you meet monthly with your special ed department?
Yep.
Or?
It's usually weekly conversations between the special education teachers and myself. They come to me with any concerns, or I go to them and be like, okay, what's not working? Because I see all the reports that come in as well, so I can oversee a management of what's happening.
What kind of reports do you get?
I get, a lot of it's data. They track what the students are going down and doing. Like if a student's struggling in the area for testing, that data will come through, like this test they only maybe got, if they're doing sight words, they got 5 sight words out of the realm of 20. And next week they test again and they get maybe 8. So those pieces of data is what we look for to see how we can adjust year to year to make sure that the students succeed. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We have our new facilities director here, in case you aren't familiar with Dennis Lynch. He's gonna give us a report.
Hello, everybody. So not a lot has changed since our last meeting here. I did get all the classroom stickers. Each window has a sticker starting and beginning each classroom to identify. We have a list drawn up. We'll get that out to state police, everybody else. The second floor ones are a little bit bigger, so you can see them from farther away. Tonight was our last basketball game, so I want to thank our custodial staff. On top of all their cleaning, they got set up, break down, clean up, So they've worked hard, seems like it's been a long season. I have our gym equipment scheduled, the inspection scheduled for June 19th for both gyms. That's where they come in, they inspect the basketball hoops, the cables, they grease everything, they pull the bleachers out, they check all the rollers. Anything that could be a safety issue, batting cage, everything, they're all certified. So that's something we started the past few years. They'll be here on the 19th. As we spoke before, this summer we'll have 2 steps installed in the gym. One will be on the visitor side and one will be over by where you guys sit. The removable company will come in, that way there's no liability issues, install both steps. And as the game starts, we'll have the aids or the monitors, pull them, bring them back in. They're not that heavy, we have them in Central Valley, so we'll have those before basketball season. We figured there's no sense of dumping the money into it now when we have to refinish the gym floor and we're not gonna use them for anything else.
Where do the steps go?
They're gonna attach to the front of the bleacher, so it's not such a big step on that
Okay.
first initial step for
Oh,
like
I see.
elderly people need to get up there.
At the railing.
Yes, right at the railing, they attach right to the, there's like a hook that goes on, that way they can't slide, they can't move. We have the rubs there, so it won't scratch the floor. So what was that?
4 total for each?
No, we're gonna do 2. We're gonna put one at the visitor side and we're gonna put one over in our section where you walk into the sports entrance where you come right in them doors there.
So
So-
who will be responsible for putting those out and taking them away?
When we set up, when we do the gym setup, we can set them up, but when the game starts, we'll have whoever's monitoring them doors pull them.
Just pull them away. Okay.
Like I said, they're not that heavy, they're a hollow metal thing. They got non-slip tape on them so nobody falls. The railings will be right there, so
Okay.
that way it makes it a little easier. It is a big first step, so. All the cell phone boxes have been installed. I'm sure Glenn will talk to you about how all that's been going, but each classroom has one, they're anchored to the wall. Elementary has a few as well. And then other than that, we held interviews for maintenance mechanic position, and that, I thought that went real well. We had some really good candidates, so we're lucky to have the people that applied. Otherwise,
Overall, since you've taken over, everything okay?
yep.
And then, secondly, I see Walters Equipment Service booster heater repairs.
Yep.
What's that about?
Well, we've been replacing parts on that, it's almost brand new by now. But in the high school kitchen, we have a booster heater that brings the temperature up on the dishwasher. It's gotta be a certain temperature per New York State Department of Health. We've had some issues, a while back they had issues where the coil froze and it blew. We've put, this is the exhaust fan, the motor and the fan and everything, it was broke. For me to get parts, you're looking 2 to 3, possibly weeks for Walters to come in. He usually has it on hand. If not, he has it the next day. Sometimes it's, you have to have this or else, cafeteria has to use paper plates and.
It was money well spent then.
It's money that we had to spend. We could've got away with it, but like I said, a lot of the parts I'm getting, a lot of the parts, like for some of the dishwashers, some of the stuff I've fixed in the past month, I've been able to find on Amazon, and I get them a lot cheaper, all OEM parts. But stuff like that, that the lead time for that is a lot longer for me than it is a vendor. So he's able to get it from his vendors, from Hobart, from whoever he has to go to, and the turnaround time is way faster than I can get, and we can't really be down that long. Because once you're down that long, I can't remember what Shelby gave me for a number, but when we go to paper products, you're getting more garbage, she's paying for paper plates and everything else. So,
And do you see this new fella potentially gonna hire, he's gonna be able to do more of this work, or what's your opinion there?
the candidate that we selected as we went through the interview process, he's EPA certified, which means all these things you see from all temp on our things, these bills, he can work on all refrigeration on HVAC units, he can work on coolers, freezers, he can do all the Freon, he can remove it, he can add it. These are all certifications that I don't have at this time. I intend to get these before I leave here, but, as of right now, that's gonna be a big asset. It's gonna save us a lot of money, and he's very knowledgeable, he's got a good plumbing background, electrical. You can't work on HVAC without an electrical background. And, we're very fortunate to have him apply, I think. I think the candidate was very well. There was a couple that were really good candidates. Any other
You
questions?
foresee a good working relationship with?
Absolutely, yep. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Mr. Wright?
I don't really have a lot. Sports trips have stopped for the winter time. Spring doesn't start until April. We, all the snow will be gone, so we did there. DOT was here on February 24th. No defects. So we're currently down one staff. Had one resign. There's one report in Pacaville, and we're lucky we had two candidates apply this time, which is really rare for us to get multiple candidates for bus driving positions. So a few things. Our small bus is manufactured in Canada. So we got an email the other day from the bus company, not sure what that's going to mean with the new tariffs. So that's a little bit of limbo. Our 3 large buses, we put our letter of intent in back late September, early October. And they finally just approved that we'll get them, because now with there's nothing new on the EV stuff. However, there's a mandate that the governor hasn't signed yet, saying that they have to sell 8. For every 8 diesel buses, they have to sell 1 EV. So they sold 4 EVs, so now they're allotted 32 diesel buses. So luckily we put ours in early enough that we'll be one of the first orders. When it'll come in now, I don't know, because that was later than what we normally would order them. A little bit about this past week. I'm sure most of you guys heard about Howell Patton and the bus accident they had. So I just want to remind everybody, when we make decisions for weather-related closures and stuff, I know some of you guys get a lot of pressure. Geez, we got a ball game tonight, how can they close? Just because it's nice in the valley doesn't mean up on the hills, for that instance it was just wind related, it sounds like. So there's a lot of decisions, a lot of things that go in that decision, so just wanted to remind everybody of that.
Thanks.
That's all I got.
Have we gotten to see how the turf has held up over the winter at all, or is it still too covered?
We aren't going there until the sun melts it.
I'm watching every day just to see, because everybody says once you see a little bit of turf, it'll go quick. But there's still probably 4 to 5 inches across that field, and it looks like it's pretty solid. Hopefully by the end of the week we'll see something. Yeah,
It must melt pretty quick, it heats up, I'm assuming?
that's what they're telling me. Is that and the track being black this year should help a lot.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, that should help a lot with the track being black, and we also don't have the trees on the backside, so now it's getting the full sun. So that should help.
Mr. Wright, did you say for the buses that you got one of the EV ones?
No.
Would
No,
can you repeat that?
So Leonard's Bus, that's the company we buy the big buses from, they have to sell an EV bus in order to be allotted 8 gas or diesel buses.
Okay.
Yeah, so
has to-
somebody ordered 4 from them.
So that relates to us, so we can have
Yes.
our regular bus.
Yeah, so now they're able to sell
I thought you said
32.
you bought
Oh, God, no.
No.
When you're ready. I see this bus driver training, first, following completion, employee, of the 30-hour course. After 30 hours of service, he'll get reimbursed. What's the course fee, do you know?
Yeah.
Following completion of the course, the bus driver training employees will be paid for taking the 30-hour course after 30 hours of service to the district.
So a new driver has to take a 30-hour course once during.
Here, or,
No, we send them out to BOCES.
okay, how much?
To be honest with you, I don't know what the cost is.
Okay. And that's held at BOCES?
That's all it is.
Okay. And then when they're paid, I guess, Kelly, when they're paid, they get reimbursed their hourly wage?
Yes.
Okay. And only through ignorance, I ask, you got gas and diesel charges, what's gas driven here?
All our small buses are gas.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. You can get them diesel, but it's a $10,000 upcharge for a diesel bus. And it's not really worth it on a small bus.
And then each day, a minimum of 1 bus is retained on the campus for service. What is that?
That's servicing it in the garage.
What does that entail?
It could entail multiple things. It could just be a simple oil change or check over, or it could be a brake pull. So a bus is required every 45 days to be in the shop and looked over completely.
That's a state thing?
That's mandated. Ours is 45 days. The state can set it so you're only at 30 days, depending on your profile, your state profile, so what your actual DOT passing rate is. So we're at 100%, so we're able to dictate every 45. We shoot for 30, but this is where it gives you, if you have something in here that has a problem and you can't repair it, and it's in here for a couple days, so it gives you a little bit of time frame.
Okay.
Then brakes have to come off the bus every 15,000 miles. Yeah, it has to come off, inspect, replace if needed. And all that has to be documented through.
You
files.
keep that documentation.
In the mechanics garage, we do, yeah. Yeah, so when the state comes, for our inspections, like, it was this year, February 24th, when they look at those buses, they look at all them records.
Service record of it.
Yeah, the records are as important as anything
Oh,
else.
sure.
So like this incident with Olive Patton, there's gonna be multiple state agencies in there, I'm sure they're already there, going through a lot of different records, and that's where that stuff comes into play.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
I just had one question.
Yeah.
The snow mountains out front.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we didn't know how much snow we were gonna expect at all, but I just feel like the one, when I pulled in a couple times, could have been a little dangerous, the one on the left. Or
Yeah,
when you're
that's not
pulling
fair.
out, because you can't, these people have the right of way, and, you know, you're kinda, I don't know, it just seemed
Yes.
like, I didn't know if we could have a better option next year to.
So we went out and bucketed that down a couple times. The biggest problem there is if you look down that whole roadway, because there is a turn lane when you turn out, it's double lane, and the state plows that up. So the state portion of it is as high or higher than our bank is. the
Right,
one that's
well, I guess I mean the bank in
In the island.
Oh, the island?
Yes.
Yeah, that's been an ongoing issue, ever since they did the parking lot. When they redid the parking lot and they put those, curbs
Curbs.
down the whole side there, there's no place to push the snow, so all the snow now gets pushed on the island.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's been an ongoing issue since, was it 18 that happened?
The one huge one, I mean, I guess it's not really an issue, I think it's the one right where you come in.
Yeah, I know exactly,
Yeah.
right by that sign where you,
Yeah,
yeah, that has been, because when you're coming across and out that, high school loop, it's hard to see
right,
around that.
yeah.
Well, when you come in and try to turn into
Turn
the tennis
into the
courts.
lot which
Yeah.
the students turn into, so
Yeah.
it's kind of.
Yeah, I can talk to.
Hopefully next year we won't have to deal with it, but, you know, it's the case.
Yeah, if we get a lot of snow, again, I'll talk to Eric about moving that with his loader.
Right.
We would be there a long time with the tractor.
Thanks. Thank you. Mr. Butler?
Sure. All right, since last meeting, we had a few assemblies, Ms. Bray put on for grades 10 through 12. And the purpose of those meetings was a initiative from the state to recruit teachers. So ultimately, she spoke to all the 10th through 12th graders, kind of talked to them about what it means to be a teacher, trying to hopefully get some of our kids to start thinking about maybe going to the teaching field. And largely that's because of the teaching shortage, and we're making good students, send them off to college, and we're trying to get them come back and maybe teach for us. So the first assembly was all the 10th through 12th graders. The second one was anybody who after the first meeting wanted to find out a little bit more and ask questions. Yeah, I think the second meeting is about 15.
That's a good idea.
It's
Yeah.
initiatives through, we gotta do something.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point we can't find
Yeah.
teachers.
And it's not just our problem, it's everybody's
Yeah.
problem. Anybody, any administrator I talk to are having difficulty finding teachers, so just one step towards trying to fix the issue. On February 25th, we had our 8th grade trip at BOCES. It was originally scheduled for a different day, but we had a 2-hour delay, which caused us to move that. And what that is that's our 8th graders going down to BOCES to tour their programs, to see if maybe down the road, in 11th and 12th grade, they might be interested in, joining one of those programs such as welding, cosmetology, network, administration, culinary. We do have a lot of kids. We actually have more kids interested in programs than we have slots to put kids in programs. So it's a good thing, and as DJ said, there's that movement towards a lot of our kids are starting to go towards the trades direction to, for career.
Can I ask you a question, Glenn? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, because I was gonna ask him and I forgot, but when it comes to the trades, when you send the kids, there's only so many kids per school that can go per trade?
Yeah, so it's based on our WADA.
Okay.
So, for
I just
example,
think that there's a limit on there. I just
there's
think it's
such
It has to be
unfortunate.
that way due to the fact that they don't have multiple, like, you take welding, for example, it's
Right.
probably the most popular
Right.
CTE. And I believe we have 2 slots, because they only have the room for so many students, it's high danger. You
Right.
can't have more than 8 kids in a room when you're learning to weld and all the equipment. And it's just one of those things that this is, every BOCES deals with, every school district deals with.
Right.
I hate to turn students away, but we have to do a lottery
Right.
to even have an opportunity.
Oh, that just seems.
So it's by lottery?
yeah, so for example, last year we had 8 students wanted to go for welding. We put the 8 students in a hat, and picked out 2, and, you know, and we figured that was the first way without having a preset system. You know, something we have talked about a little bit is coming up with some system to make sure the kids we're sending are maybe, I don't wanna say more deserving, but more likely to succeed in the program. Look at possibly down the road, and it'd be something we'd have to discuss and come up with a system, but looking at attendance and, you know, behavior and stuff like that, because we do send kids sometimes that are not successful down there, that are taking up a slot for a kid who may have been successful. So that's something we gotta look at, but until we come up with that and pretty much establish that in the beginning of the school year, we don't wanna change the goalposts for the kids mid-year. So we have to really, you know, come up with a better system than picking out of a hat, but right now, that is the fairest,
You might have a student with behavioral issues, but sitting in a traditional classroom isn't their type of learning, so this would be more beneficial for them. So that, drawing out of a hat, I agree with.
yeah. So
For
for right
that
now,
one
so
purpose.
attendance is probably our biggest issue down there. We do have kids who have for attendance down there are not passing the programs. which
What do you do
means-
about it?
We do everything we can, we contact parents, BOCES contacts parents, and there's really, because BOCES students are 11th to 12th grade, there's really not a whole lot that we can do about it. To pull them out of the program mid-year, you can't just replace a kid.
You
So-
need the credits, and that's the problem. Credit recovery becomes an issue back at the home district, because it might not be an English class, but because English is used, they can use the credits for that particular class. Now, they come back here, we have to put them back in the traditional setting. So you try to have meetings, you try to have conversations, you try to have, you know, parent involvement, you know, both school involvement, and hopefully you can get through that it's very important that you attend, because if you come back here, you might not graduate on time.
Do we have anything like that?
That's happening? Yes.
Those
We
are
have-
the things that
yes, we
happen.
have students that currently and in the past have been in a position where a senior is in danger of graduating because they're not attending or passing their program down there. We have no option to bring them back because it's such a specific program mid-year. There's no way to bring a student back because they have any of their science, math, English.
All
thing-
tied in.
It's all tied in to it.
It's not a good predicament to be in, and that's
All right,
something
give me a
that we all.
step-by-step how you would broach it. Do you call the parents in, the kid first, then the parents, or how would you do that? How would you try to rectify it?
We have a lot of conversations with the counselors, the parents, the kids, both administration from here and at BOCES. They all come together
Mhm.
to have that, we need X, Y, and Z to happen. So that's what we can do on our part, but there's a lot of communication that goes on amongst counselors and all the moving pieces to try to get that student and parent to understand that coming back here can't be an option, or else they're not going to graduate. Staying through and working it through will help them and give them probably the best opportunity to graduate.
The
So
first
they-
step's always, identifying the problem. So
Sure.
why are you not going? What can we do to get you to go? And, you know, those conversations are generally the first one. If they don't have a good reason why they're not going, then you're having conversations about, with parents, like, what can we do, working together, OCs is constantly contacting, their teachers are contacting, our counselors are contacting. You know, we email back and forth, offer to have, meetings that are combined, where we can go down to BOCES, parent can come in, the BOCES staff's there, and we can do that, so.
See, I understand the lottery thing, and I agree with this juncture, but then you preclude a kid who really wanted to go, could have done well for some kid who did.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if they go as a junior and say they don't pass, are they able to go back, or is their spot given up?
So if they go to junior, go as a junior,
Two-year program, isn't it?
It's a two-year program, so you're in trouble no matter what. If they go in as a junior and.
we usually bring them back here.
Okay.
We bring them back.
So
but
they
we
could
lose
come
that
back
spot.
for another, for
Senior
their
year.
senior year.
It's almost impossible to come back once you get about 3 or 4 weeks into the school year, maybe even 5 weeks, because there's no way to make up there's no transfer of like English and math here. Because they don't have an English grade, they don't have a math grade, they don't have a science grade. All they have down there is their BOCES grade, which pretty much gives them credit for all the things. So if they have a 50 in BOCES or 45 in BOCES, that means they have a 50 or 45 in everything else. But they haven't done any of the work here that's traditionally done in those classes. So anything that builds up towards that final exam here, they're necessarily not doing it because all of their stuff is focused on their trade. So all their math revolves around welding, for example. The measurements, the angles, all that. So that makes it extremely difficult, impossible to bring them back if they want to graduate on time, ultimately. So we try to work with them so we can get them through. And it's not a common thing that happens all the time. We don't have like, out of, say, 25 seniors that go, we may struggle with 1 or 2. Everybody else is highly successful. They're here and they're getting 75, and they go there and they're getting 90s in their program. So
That's what we want to do it.
yeah, so definitely, you know, most of our kids see the benefits of doing it and actually show growth for the kids that aren't doing well in traditional classes, but you have a few that would be unsuccessful here as well because of attendance. But
Thanks.
yep. We also had our Gourd Mountain trip on February 25th, ski club. Kids really enjoyed that. And then we had our cell phone assembly on February 26th. And that's going well so far. I've had 6 phones confiscated since the start of it. Even first offense. So out of those 6 kids, we didn't have any that had a second offense at this point. No issues really from parents. I've noticed kids are walking in the hallways even when they can't have their phones and they're not using them. So I've seen that change. Study hall is a little bit louder. The kids are talking to each other. They're playing Jenga, they're playing chess, they're helping each other with homework. So good things. And I think the kids, for the most part, are pretty good with it.
So you had an assembly to broach a subject, is that what you
Yep,
said?
so I had assembly, went over all the rules, expectations, consequences, reason for doing it, and then kind of what's going to happen next year based on what we know. And, you know, kids had a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, so I answered those in assembly. But overall, it's been great, and you know, Dennis, I thank Dennis, he spent a lot of time making sure in a short period of time from when we got him to get them all in the rooms.
Is that one over there?
Yep, so that's one of them right there.
Could you show us how you do it?
Yeah, you just, I don't know if it's locked. It's unlocked.
I want to see how does it open and how does
You
it.
just open it up, walk in, plug your phone in, shut it.
Does everyone have a certain number, or you just stick it in?
So it depends on the classroom.
Okay.
Who has the key?
Teacher, any adult who is in the room.
We have the other one, so when that one's locked, we have a second.
Yeah, I have the extra keys.
No, I didn't know, I thought maybe it was unlocked.
No.
So
thank
a
you.
lot of times the teachers do leave them unlocked, depending on the room. They're right in front of them, you know, it's kind of hard for a kid if you're having good classroom awareness to walk up there in class while you're teaching, grab their phone out, like.
We're still on course for September first to be bell to bell.
Yes, yep,
Yep, correct.
yep, but, you know,
How's it going with kids coming to the office to use the phone? Have you had much, I know sports are winding down, so it's.
Not
So,
as much.
no more than previously. So we do have kids that don't have cell phones, so
Right.
in the office use phones.
But they also have them in between periods and at
Right.
lunch, so I mean, right now,
Yeah.
that could see an uptick next year in September, but we'll have to do a better job of, you know, making sure the coaches send out parent squares and, you know, a communication piece, because that communication piece is crucial
Right.
for this transition. But we have some work we have to do from now until September. This summer, we'll send out more information to the families in the community on the expectation, and, you know, the consequences are gonna stay the same. We're looking at kids going to BOCES, will have their phone when they leave here to have their phone at BOCES. Field trips, they'll have their phone when they go on the field trip. If kids are not in our building, they will have their phone. It's not, we aren't gonna keep their phone and send them to BOCES. So those are things that as we continue to work through this is why the hybrid model, I think, was our best choice. Kids are getting comfortable, they're getting used to having the lockers, knowing what the expectation is, and then come September, we'll make sure that we're ready to rock and roll.
Any other questions about?
Has anyone gone beyond the second consequence?
Nobody's gone beyond the first consequence
Oh,
so far. So I had six different kids had their phone out. I did have a kid who reacted poorly to it. And
did they have their phones? The 6 kids have their phones?
Out in class, yeah.
So how did they?
So
just
they
have
didn't
them
turn
plugged
it
into
in?
the thing?
Yep, they didn't turn them in, so they got caught with them,
Oh.
using them
Okay.
in class, so they got taken. So ultimately, we don't know what kids have phones, we don't know
Right.
if they have their phones with them, they don't know if
Right.
they left them at home. Ultimately, if we don't see them, we've achieved our goal, if they're not using them, if they're not having them out. So the purpose of it was to have them focus on education in class, and I think we've been really successful with that. And I, gotta give the teachers a lot of credit because, they're part of this and they're working to make sure kids are doing that. They spent a lot of time prepping the kids in the week prior, trying to answer all their questions about their concerns. A lot of it was that initial, I don't wanna give it up, but to be honest with you, there's a lot of kids that put it in the box and then forget their phone in there and have to go back and get it later, because they don't realize they don't have their phone with them. So just that little bit of taking it away from them is separating it from them, a lot. And they're forced to talk to each other, which, is good and bad sometimes because they're not used to talking to each other.
The faculty felt the same.
Yeah, so the faculty, that really wasn't an issue before. I don't generally see any faculty out on their phone during their classes. It's kind of hard to be on your phone in teaching your class, so I don't think that was a huge issue. I think it was a little bit of a concern. And I obviously could see more than we do, so if you're hearing that, maybe that's true, but.
We also had a
to my
faculty
understanding.
meeting, and we discussed that with all the faculty here at the middle and high school about, we need to lead by example. And that was, we had that meeting prior to all this going into effect.
And I've had teachers come up and, say how well it's working, and I've had parents contact me, and, they seem to be very happy, the ones that I've spoke to. And a lot more openly say, I think it's a great thing, we should have done it a long time ago. So I think they're seeing the effects of it and hearing less about drama at home. So they're happy, so. We had assembly, to BOCES, it was a letter home, Civil War letters, so they went down there, 3 kids with Mr. Pullman. It's an honors program that both elementary and the high school does throughout the year. Really good program, the kids enjoyed it, and, so a lot of trips. Mr. Ray's been, great, but we're sending kids out, a couple times a week lately. We had the sophomore BOCES visit on March 5th. That's where our sophomores went to BOCES. They looked at the program. We sent out a parent square today. telling kids if you wanna go to BOCES, give us your first choice and your second choice. They have until I think next week, next Friday to do that. Once we get that, we'll take those names, throw them in a hat, pick however many spots we have out, and we'll let them know as soon as we.
Give me an idea what courses are available.
Courses down there?
Yeah.
So you have culinary, you have cosmetology, you have welding, you have advanced manufacturing, you have network administration,
Health science.
What was that?
health science, like a nursing, health science, early childhood, heavy machinery, which I think they call it something else now, right? What is that?
Power sports or
Power
something?
sports and something, where they're working on engines, mechanic class, they'll work with bobcats and backhoes and stuff like that when the class go out, and they'll actually have the kids dig and work and, so, yeah, they have a lot of really good programs. I'm trying to think of anything else.
Conservation.
Conservation, yeah, conservation.
They still build the house?
What? They still build a house through building construction, yeah. Yeah, that's something you'd probably be interested in if you ever,
I'm gonna go to that meeting.
yeah, go to the meeting and ask VJ to take you out to
Yeah, I'm gonna.
the house they're working on. So they lift it up over the building. So somebody purchased, or bids on the house in the beginning, they build it, and then they ship it to wherever it's being, and they put it there. So we really do a house, electrical, the sheet rock right from the bottom up, and so kids are very proud of that too. And last thing is this Sunday, actually Saturday and Sunday. Saturday the girls are in the All-Star Bowling, and then Sunday they bowl for states. So they went on Sunday. They started at 9 in Syracuse. Did we post that yet? Do you know? Yep. So it's posted. Buy tickets if you wish to go out there. And the girls bowl 6 games. There's 8 girls, 5 girls bowl at a time. So ultimately, whoever's bowling well, you'll just pop out the lowest person and put in another person to try to win that. So, exciting. They're undefeated for 3 years now, 3 or 4 years. So we're looking at that. But that is everything in the high school and that I can think of right now.
Thanks.
Good, thanks.
Ms. Belfry?
Sure. So at the end of February, the American Heart Association came and put on a assembly for our K-2 students and 3 through 6. They just talked about the importance of healthy habits, maintaining a healthy heart. They also provide the students with a number of challenges that they could complete at home with their families. Let's see, so March 3rd, we started reading Safari again this year. So students are reading at home, they're logging their hours, and then they can earn a free ticket to the water safari, which is always a big hit in the elementary school. March 5th and 6th last week, I had a pre-K audit from the State Ed Office of Early Learning. So last year, I applied for a UPK expansion grant and was granted the grant. We received about $210,000 this year towards the program. So part of the stipulation of having the grant, they have to come and do an audit. So they asked for a number of items that I had to pull together. They came, they visited our classes, they met with us, and then I will have a follow-up in another week or so, and they'll just give us suggestions, things that they've seen and different things that we can possibly improve on. So it went really well, and it also going to the UPK Day in Albany at the beginning of May. But one of the good things about the grant, I thought it was only a 1 year, and come to find out, it is for years to come until the money runs out. So we're very happy about that.
Can you give us numbers of kids?
Sure, so right now, we have 38 students in our pre-K program. We have 2 sections. So very healthy numbers. Our kindergarten and pre-K registration will be on March 20th and 21st, and we already have had a number of calls requesting pre-K packets for next year. So,
And how many can you
We can go up
Maximize?
40. We can go up to 40 students, yes.
What curriculum do they follow for your pre-K?
So we kind of have a number of different things. They use foundations, the Wilson's Foundations. They do the early lit, and then they're also doing pre-K math, and I know they do a lot of student choice, center choice things.
Do you have phone issues?
In
Any
pre-K,
phone issues?
we don't, no, not yet.
And what's the ages there?
Not yet. So a lot of them are 4 turning 5 during the year.
There's a cutoff date,
Yes.
birthday.
So they cannot be 5 before, no, I'm sorry. They have to be 4 before December 1st. If they turn 5 before December 1st, they are not eligible, unfortunately. They have to go to kindergarten.
Some come in as a 3-year-old, as long as
Yes.
you're as long as you are 4 by that December 1st cutoff, you're eligible, and some will turn 5 throughout the year. But, you know, I think, looking down there, our numbers are quite healthy, and it is nice to have that. That was something, you know, I know you guys worked hard on prior to me coming here, but it is nice to have the control and have, the UPK down at the elementary.
Once you get that grant, 200,000.
Very nice.
Nice job.
And what's really nice we find is it just makes the transition to kindergarten so much smoother. They've already been in school, they've already established those routines, they've essentially have learned how to go to school. So when they come to kindergarten, they're ready. They come in and we've noticed a big difference in the students, so it's nice. Let's see, also, this week, we have Music in Our Schools Month, so we have it's going to be band and chorus concerts for grades 5 through 12, so 5th and 6th will be included in those 2 concerts this week. We have our superintendent's conference day on Friday. The elementary teachers are going to be participating in a PD on literacy instructional best practices in the morning. And then in the afternoon, they're working on updating their child abuse training mandate that everybody's gonna have to do.
That's a state thing.
Yes, yeah. On March 20th and 21st, we have our half-day for our elementary students for parent-teacher conferences. Now, these conferences are for students who are receiving academic intervention services or per parent request. So we invite any students that's receiving support, and parents also have the option if they just want to come in. March 31st, we have our annual book swap. So students bring in a gently used book, and they swap it for a book they don't have at home. And Dollar General donated a very large box of books to our school. Apparently, they are donating books to all schools, so that was wonderful to be
You
able
get
to
a lot of
do that.
participation?
We do,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, they love it.
Good.
It's fun. We've had a number of students going on honors programs this month, and we have a number of 6th grade students going to the Battle of Books with our librarian coming up in a few weeks as well.
And, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, our high school it's this Wednesday, the 12th is the Battles of Books competition at Union College, so.
Thank you.
Are those conferences early dismissal or is it all day?
Conference on Fridays all day.
No, I'm sorry, the parent-teacher conference or
Parent
Friday?
teachers.
That's early dismissal, 11:30 for the elementary.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Any other questions?
See, swapping books.
Thank you.
Read 'em.
Yes.
Okay, a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented to us. Sarah first, Ed second, all in favor? Motion to enter executive session, appointment of personnel matters, including review and appointment of employees and contract negotiations. Janine first, Elisa second, all in favor?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we can just
start with them if you want.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
can we both
Yep.
stay or? Okay.
welcome back. Okay, first up, personnel report. Motion to approve the appointment of Sabrina Prevo, full-time 10-month certified kindergarten teacher in the 10-year area of elementary education for the negotiated salary of the WCBTA bargaining agreement effective March 11th, 2025. Peter first, Janine second, all in favor. Motion to accept the appointment of Reed Hampel, full-time 12-month building mechanic, provisional for the negotiated salary of the CSEA bargaining agreement effective March 11th, 2025, pending fingerprint results. Ed first, Elisa second, all in favor. Motion to appoint Scott Lampier, full-time 10-month bus driver, probationary for the negotiated salary of the CSBA bargaining agreement effective March 11th, 2025. Sarah first, Elisa second, all in favor.
Jess, on the building mechanic, it should be building maintenance mechanic.
Oh, okay. Correction, building maintenance mechanic. Thank you.
That's the title.
Motion to appoint Hope Ryder, substitute custodian, salary for the negotiated approved rate sheet effective March 11th, 2025, pending fingerprints. Janine first, Ed second, all in favor. Motion to appoint Jacqueline Bray, teacher mentor, elementary music, as per the WCBTA bargaining agreement effective March 11th, 2025 for the remainder of the 24-25 school year. Janine first, Ed second, all in favor. Am I just saying her name? Okay, I didn't know if I needed to say her name. A motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between West Canada Valley Central School and the Teachers Association for the certified math teacher, adding an additional class. Shauna first, Janine second, all in favor. And a motion to approve the transportation proposition. And I need to say the amounts, correct? Or do I not need to? Okay. With a cost not to exceed $598,479. Ed first, Sarah second, all in favor.
Can I ask a question? Are these gas or electric?
Either, well, yeah, the
Because a
bigger.
lot of people are gonna ask that.
No, we're going diesel and gas powered as long as we can.
Okay.
Diesel or gas?
So our small buses are gas, our big buses are diesel.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Yeah, Phillips has got a good program, we get a lot back on the old buses he gets rid of. A good program.
And we're
over there.
getting rid of them before the maintenance costs exceed the work. We all know the roads around here they do a number.
It's a good program.
Motion to approve the 2025-26 district calendar with the following changes. January of 2025 needs to be January 2026. And graduation will be June 20th instead of the 27th. Janine first, Elisa second, all in favor. Okay. Budget workshop 4.
Okay, so we're now in the budget workshop floor, and Kelly's gonna hand out some preliminary numbers, where we're at. One thing is, you saw Mr. Shepherdson speak of, salaries and benefits are a huge cost. And so we're gonna look this over. Is this all one? No, it's just one page.
Just one per person, that's the revenue side,
Okay,
so it's.
thank you.
This page, this is the actual budget.
Thank you.
There might be extras. I just got into the 12 copy mode. To say anything before I start, or?
No, I'm gonna let you go
Okay.
over what was
If
just
we look
handed out.
at the appropriation status, the second one that I gave you, the
Good one.
thicker one.
Good one. Okay, I'm ready.
I have the numbers that I have so far. I'm still waiting on some of the BOCES information from other BOCES. And I still have to calculate some of the benefits towards the end of the report. But all of the salary numbers and the BOCES numbers that I have so far are all in here. I noted them down the side where it's, anything that's changed will be noted as to what it's changed for. Bulk of it is salaries and BOCES. If you look down, bottom of page 2 is where the director of facilities position is added in, 77,000. And then on the partway, 2/3 of the way down on page 3 is where it comes out of the maintenance section. So it's not a full wash, but it's pretty close to a wash. Okay? And then on page 3, top of page 3, I put money in for floor scrubber. Ours is 10+ years old and is falling apart slowly, but, and it's all up to you guys. If you want me to take anything out, add anything in, just gotta tell me. So that one was, the floor scrubber was 13,000.
Is that something we use every day? Okay.
We have two. We have one in the elementary, one in the high school. And the high school one is the walk behind,
Mhm.
and it's better days.
So the new one would be like the,
The new one will be a write-out
right on.
for 13,000.
Okay.
Do you have the one in the elementary school that's filed the little code so it could go by itself?
We can't afford those. Those are like 50,000.
Kelly, while it's here, the SRO salary, is that an hourly, how do we pay that?
The sheriff's department bills us at the end of the month. They actually turn time cards in for what they work here, and then the sheriff's department bills us for their salary and benefits. So it's an hour per hour reimbursement.
Is that generally a full day every day?
Yes. But our second officer is limited on how much he can earn because of retirement, so he's 4 days a week. The next line down is required water testing. We had to change labs last year, and the new labs are a little more expensive. The next one down is snow removal. This is the final year of our contract, and it was for 15,000, I believe, next year. Part of it's paid out of here, and part of it's paid out of the transportation codes. Then down on operations P&T, $20,000 is the total amount, and that is a reduction because of the gym floor refinishing last year. That went down $40,000.
Oh, because, so we
Last
don't
year
have
we
to
had-
get that done.
Last year we had to do the full sand
The
down to
whole-
bare.
okay.
And then
Oh, I
they had
see.
to repaint and everything, so that
They'll
was.
come in and
Oh,
seal
so
it
now
this
it's
year.
just
Now it's
touch
just-
up, kinda, okay.
Yep, they rough up the surface and put down seal it on
That's
it.
an every year, it's every year.
Kelly, before I go further, the snow removal contract, I asked you before, I've forgotten, we put that out for public bid or have?
Yes, every 5 years. And this is 25, 26 is the last year of that contract, so we'll have to bid it next year. Down a little farther under the oil, fuel oil. I dropped it down because our prices have been quite a bit lower this year, so I knocked some down off of it.
That's a plus.
Yeah.
Right, that doesn't happen often.
No.
No, and hopefully we don't get into another where it's skyrocketing. Then down on the 1621 codes, bottom part of that page, you'll see where the mechanic position came out of that one line. And then on the second line down is the equipment replacement plan. And it's rebuilding the large tractor. And all the snow this year, we've killed our snow blower. So we have to get a snow blower for the small tractor, because that one we have is outdated and you can't get parts for it. So they've been babying it along. So the snow blower part of that is $10,000. The rebuild is the balance of it. And then down on the bottom where the SRO salaries, that also includes a contract with Field Turf to come in once a year and maintain the turf. They bring in their big machine and go over it and redistribute pellets and fluff it and.
They also sanitize it during that time,
Oh.
because sometimes with, injury, things like that, they'll come redistribute the drainage, the beads, and it's cheaper for them to come in and do it yearly than to buy all that big time equipment. But the
And they also-
sanitary part is huge.
That's the same company that installed it?
Yes.
Yep.
They also do a recorder G-Max testing, which I'm not sure what that means, but it's required.
Environmental.
It's a required test once a year, so.
Things that we can't do in-house.
Right, that's included in that price. The next page is all but BOCES and salaries. And the one line, 2020-160 is an increase of $5,000, but that includes 2 full-time clerks in the elementary office.
I didn't hear that?
That includes 2 full-time clerks in the elementary office. That $5,000 increase. And like, again, that's, you guys gotta tell me if you want anything
Wait,
taken out.
like office?
Office people, would be 2. I had money in there for 1.5 for secretaries.
Oh, I see, so it's actually only adding a half.
Right.
Okay, that's why,
Yep.
and I'm like, oh wow, it's not going up very much, okay, I
No,
get it, I get
It's
it.
adding a half a person. Page 5. Again, it's all salaries and BOCES information. Some of them have dropped because of staff changes. Teaching K through 6 dropped because of staffing changes. One of our more senior employees left. Page 6. Top of this is the handicapped codes. You'll see the $210,000, about 5 lines down. That is for the addition of one-to-one aides that were added this year, that were not budgeted for this year.
Oh,
So that's to increase.
how many did we have to add?
Quite a few due to the fact that we had a lot of students that had severe needs that needed to have those aids. So it's something that we monitor day in, or year in and year out to make sure that, but we
That
have
was
to.
2250, 160, 32.
Yeah.
Yes. It went up 46,000.
Yeah.
And that
That's
is
a whole person.
That's 2 people. 2 lines lines down from that is an $11,000 increase, and that is, we have a student that does tele-speech services through, I think he's placed at UCB. And they don't have a person there to provide it, so they do a tele-speech thing with him. Next line down is just tuition increases. BOCES actually dropped a little bit in handicap codes because of the placements that changed a little bit. Bottom line, bottom 2250 code is up about $8,000, and that is for audio devices. Some of our original ones are wearing out, so we're having to replace the classroom devices that the kids use.
What
with
does that
the
mean exactly?
It's the audio devices the kids use with the teachers in the classrooms.
If they have.
They have speakers and. it's-
Hearing.
Yeah, it's a hearing.
It's a
Hearing impaired.
Yeah, hearing impaired, yep.
Sorry. The CTE is up about 80,000, and that is just for enrollment. We have more kids going there. There's 45 for next year. And right now,
More kids are going for like the different classes, and some years nobody goes.
It
That
all
how
depends.
there's always, it's the old ARC-Ed stuff that when we were in school. This is the CTE, BOCES program. Right now, we have 42 kids, I believe, that are in there. Next year, they're slotted for 44. The rest of that page is salaries and BOCES. Nothing too big. Page 7, towards the bottom is AED machine supplies. Some of our AEDs are expiring this year, so we have to start replacing a few of them. So this is replacing one in the high school, one in the elementary, plus we have to get new batteries and pads every year. So that includes those. They're good for 10 to 12 years, they'll last, and that's how old some of them are.
Does someone come in and test those?
The nurses keep track of them, and they have, there's an indicator on them
Oh.
somewhere that they look at.
Okay.
And then there is an expiration date on them.
Oh.
Top of page 8, we have a salary increase, and then supplies for the new counselor that started mid-year last year. Didn't get requisitions in, so there's a few things that she needs. Rest is salaries.
What is the laundry? Who does laundry?
That's our uniforms, our bus. Are you on page 9?
On page 8.
8.
Page 8.
Co-curricular act.
Oh, that's the
laundry.
band uniforms.
Oh.
The band uniform, the marching band,
Oh.
they send them out for,
Oh,
to
laundry.
be dry cleaned.
Okay.
They get sweaty.
Not the best material for summertime. you know.
Right?
Well, we won't send them this year though, right, because we won't use them for Dellsville.
But we'll
Use them
probably
for
do
Sherburne.
Sherburne.
Sherburne pageant.
Oh,
Clean
And
them
they
after
do-
every year, at the end of the season.
Yep,
they
at
go
the,
out.
after the last parade, they send them. And they also do the Memorial Day, usually.
What did we have an increase in the uniforms? I know we had the plan, maybe it's football this year or something that made it go up so much.
It is, I'm actually gonna talk to Todd about that one, because I think there might be some duplicated stuff in there. Because we have a recurrent charge for like the socks and hats and that kind of
Oh,
stuff that
yeah.
don't last more than a year. And I think that he had a separate PO in there for them, along with the recurrent charge. But yeah, it's in the workshop.
Mhm.
There's quite a few uniforms being replaced this year.
Is there?
Girls varsity soccer and JV boys and girls basketball.
Then there's modified football,
Oh, that's a big one.
the jerseys.
They're the ones that are getting replaced?
Yeah, modified is 3,000.
Oh.
The big one is girls varsity, no, boys varsity, girls varsity soccer.
And that also includes the football helmets that we tries to do like 8 every year to keep them on a rotation. Transportation is salaries. Page 9, we had, again, I reduced the fuel costs because it's been lower, consistently lower than it has been in the past. So I dropped that back some. Oil and lubricants, that went up, and the tires and chains went up. On page 10, we're very happy about this one. And on the bottom, we have no capitalized interest this year to claim because the projects are fully funded at the end of this year. We have a payment this year for when we did the ban to doing the bond. We have to pay the interest on that ban for the year. But once this project is bonded, then we're done with that. Up above that is I didn't mark it, the school, the project bonds, bans, or, the buses and the projects. That's the change in the numbers for those.
Trans lunch fund,
Transfer to
right at the
school.
bottom, Kelly.
Transfer to school lunch. We transfer, our retiree health insurance costs
Oh,
are transferred out of general to school lunch. And on the top of the next page is the same thing, only it's special aid. And that's for any, like our summer handicapped, if we don't get a full reimbursement for some of that. So that when we have to transfer money in to balance out what we don't pay. So bottom line, we are at a 4.6% increase. It's just over $1 million. It's $1,016,000.
Kelly, if you don't mind me going back,
Sure.
page 8, new counselor supplies.
That was our new counselor in the elementary. She was hired mid-year last year, so she didn't have an opportunity to get supplies for this school year. So some of that is making up for stuff that she needs that she wasn't able to order.
What do they classify inter-athletic miscellaneous? What's in that bucket?
What page is that on, Pete?
I'm on page 8. It's 20, it went up a couple $1,000. I just wonder what miscellaneous is.
Just a second, I'll find it. What's the budget code number on that?
Miscellaneous, it would be A2855.47931.
That is our section 3 dues,
Oh,
our CSC lead
Sports aren't
meetings,
cheap. They tell you.
no,
student scores,
it's a mess, I'll
timers.
tell you. Section 3 is a mess. Terrible.
We pay the student scores and timers out of that too.
Hey, at least this year, they put an X on your hand and you got to stay for both games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could have been worse.
Last year we got thrown out.
Yes, we did.
I didn't leave.
The year before that, we got thrown out.
I didn't leave.
I just don't, my thing with section 3 is I just don't understand where they're coming from. Games in Sherbrooke, games in South Louis, games in wherever. What's happening
I don't
here?
know the rhyme or reason, and, you know, I
It just
know
doesn't
that
make any sense.
every section's different, and that's something I'm still learning, you know, I've worked in section 10, I've worked in section 7, you know, every section presents different challenges. You know, one thing I'm learning in our section is how vastly spread it is.
Well, yeah,
And
it is.
you have from point A to point B, it's a long haul for some of our kids on buses. But again, those are the reality of, they're never gonna change that. When I was in my last district, we were part of Plattsburgh. So we were the southern part of the Adirondack Park going to Plattsburgh. That's a long haul in the middle of dead of winter. There's no easy
Play
way.
Shazy too,
Yeah,
that's
they
a
were all our
wicked
sections.
drive.
I know.
But I mean, I just don't understand where they're coming, why are they picking these schools that are so far away from everybody?
Because of the population.
I think we asked.
I don't have it, I can do some research, but I think it comes down to, you know, size. Again, I think you know, where are gyms that can hold as many spectators, you know,
Well,
that's why like.
Sherburne was packed.
Yeah,
Kelly?
I mean, they were 6 deep on the floor, sitting on the floor.
but then again, you looked at Morrisville State, and Morrisville looked like there was some room in the bleachers
Oh, yeah, there
there.
was, there was.
Their gym's not really that big. so-
No, I just don't, it just,
I need a new scoreboard.
I think we have to be
Well, do you know
cautious
that
also
the
of where we're
people
going.
in Hawken doing this
So I think
have
that
already done it?
the reality with that is with teams,
I'm sorry, but you should not be doing
wins and
a sectional
losses
game.
don't
You've never
constitute
done it
your
before.
seeding anymore. There's a whole mathematical equation.
Yeah.
So you have to play certain teams and get them on your schedule to have your team could be 9, 10, and 2, but because you didn't play certain teams, you might be a 4 or 5 seed.
Yeah.
And it hurt us, it hurt us in soccer this year. I'll come right out and say, we had a good girls' soccer team, they had a good season, but because their schedule, they didn't play outside of this region, they didn't get a favorable seed at the playoffs.
No.
8-man football too, you're gonna have some schools right now that are going back to 11-man that played 8-man this year, and that's gonna cause some concern with the travel schedule for that. You know, that's the best thing is we're committed to 8-man. It's hard when you have districts playing hopscotch, 8-man one year, 11-man the next year, because it does put the schedule in a. Yep.
Kelly, for the teaching staff, and I know I've asked you this before, and forgive me for asking it again. Do teachers get like an allowance or, for every year?
A set amount for supplies you're
Yeah,
talking?
for supplies and,
It's not a set amount.
so like one
It's-
teacher could do $3,000, another teacher could do $75?
Theoretically, but we don't have any that go that high.
No, I'm just saying, like you could have that much of a.
Yes, yes, and we do. We have teachers, some that spend more than others, and we have a couple that don't spend anything. So, I mean, I try to keep it like elementary at a set number, dollar amount. High
So that's
school-
why you'll see them pop up through because they're,
Yeah,
like in the other paperwork you sent out.
on the warrants,
You'll see like teacher supply
Oh, once
plus
in a
or-
while.
yeah.
But is it like once a year they do it, or whenever they need something?
This is right now, is when they order, we don't order it yet, but this is when they tell us what
They've
they
already
want
put their
for
requisitions,
next year. Yes.
requisitions in.
And if something comes up, if they have a change in course study or something that they need,
And this,
there's always a little bit of room.
and the administrators sign off and look at it, right?
We've also, come April 1st, no unnecessary spending the rest of the year, like, you know, you get what you need for the rest of the year, and then we're gonna, because then it gives us a better understanding of where we stand throughout this process.
So the counselor was redoing her whole room, or she didn't have anything, or what is she getting
I
for
think,
that?
I would have to double check the recs, but I wanna say part of that was computer, like a software kind of thing.
I was just blown away by
Computer,
that.
You know,
I'll double check the recs though. I think that's what part of
So
it
that
was.
procurement goes through the administrator, has to be cleared by them, like the principal?
Yes. It goes to the principals and then to Jeremy and then to me. And if we don't
and
have
there's
the
been
money, I tell them
kickback
no.
before too, where, is this a need or a want?
They're, for the most part, they're very good about needs.
Yeah.
They're limited on their wants. We have a couple. All right, any more questions on the budget?
This is for next
The
week.
expense part of it? So if you go to the smaller packet, is the revenue side. It's the single page that I sent out. This one is even farther up in the air than the expenditure side, because until the state finishes their budget, we have what the governor has proposed. which is a 2% increase on foundation aid, which is $160,000 for us. And we have $1 million raise in expenses. So, on this report right here, there is an error that is not my error, but if you look at page 231, 3, the BOCES aid, that is short by $700,000, but that is the way BOCES submitted their forms. They did not include, they only included Herkimer BOCES. We have almost $1 million that we spend with Madison Oneida Rec, and that wasn't included in the expenditures. So when the actual aid numbers come through, that will go up closer to what it was last year, if not more than last year. Well, it will be a little lower than last year because the capital project payment is a little lower than last year. But it will be closer to the 1.9 rather than the 1.2. But we have to wait until they do the new aid runs to tell us what that's gonna be. So as of right now, we have a big discrepancy. The budget as of right now is 22,915,000, and our revenues are 18,002. 18 million, sorry. Yep, 22 million and 18 million.
No, we still have a lot of work in front of us, and we'll continue to break it down line by line. But really, we're at a holding, there's only so much we can do until we know the numbers from the state. And right now, that's up in the air. But also, I'd like to go out on, there's a lot of uncertainty all around us, whether it's from federal funding or state funding. I wish the crystal ball was clear and we could move forward, but we'll do the best we can, and I think at our next board meeting we'll have hopefully some clarity of which direction we need to go. But there are going to be conversations of where we can trim.
As it should be.
We did file the tax cap. I filed that last week or 2 weeks ago, and our tax cap limit is 5% because of the projects and all the nagging that goes along with those. So we are entitled to go 5% without having to have the supermajority pass the budget. I'm not stating what percent we're gonna go, but we are allowed to go to 5.
Okay.
Which gives us $267,000 towards that 4 million that we're short.
Doesn't seem like a lot.
Drop in the bucket.
For every percent, it's like 50, 54, 55,
53.
$53,000.
So between trimming some of the expenditures and hopefully some of the revenues will come up, hopefully we'll get a lot closer.
Next month we'll hopefully be smiling more.
We allocated 2.8 in fund balance last year, 2.8 million, and we're not gonna have that in fund balance this year.
So the reality is we're gonna have to trim and look at every avenue, and that's why, even we're looking at, a lot of the programs that were used with the federal dollars from COVID, those were the summer, those were things like that. Everything's on the table right now, and we're looking at all avenues. I know I've said that before in here, but this is trying times. Anytime you get federal funds coming in, like the COVID relief, and then it drops off, you're going to see fiscal cliffs, and this is what we're trying to avoid. But the reality is, there's a lot of work to be done.
Pre-K money, does that pay for the salaries?
That pays the salaries, there's
For
the
the teachers
expansion
and aides?
grant.
Mm-hmm.
And
Teachers and aides? Or just the 2 aides?
That pays,
For the two of them.
that pays for the 2 teachers and 4 TAs.
That grant that Mrs. Mildred got?
combined with the base grant. This is considered an expansion grant. So with that and the base grant, it pays for 2 teachers and 4 aides.
Oh, so it breaks even?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I have another half person in there that's a one-to-one.
Thinking of that.
That was some good news.
That was very exciting news. I almost
Oh,
hugged the
'cause it's
lady.
taking it up.
She showed emotion. That was.
Happy emotion.
That helps your budget though.
Well, that's your superintendent meeting, that must be the consensus, right? Everybody's in the same financial stress, I think you call it?
There's a
There
few that are not.
Several that are. And the 2%, you gotta remember, last year we got 0. And we got no increase in state aid. And then, so that hurt us. And, for years, I know before you guys, you had a 0% increase. And that compounds year in and year out, and that might have set us back a little bit, but we'll work through it, and we'll figure out what we have to do.
Make it work.
It's tough times, it is, and you don't know which sense of direction. Now, Title I is a federal funded. We could be here, if we don't get Title I funding next year, that's a couple $100,000. That could put us further in the hole. So there's a lot that could put this
They can't do that.
in a worse situation.
I hope they don't.
But the reality is, I want to say it right here because I think everybody needs to hear that these are things that could potentially devastate us.
I don't wanna say it's 280,000 right now, that's what we get for Title I funding.
It's just something to keep in the back of your mind, and as we get more information, I'll share it with everybody.
Ed, you had a question about the
No,
budget?
no.
You're good?
No.
Okay.
Well, on the second page, how many seats are up this year? It says petitions available on the, because we go 3, 2,
For us,
2, right?
It's
Yeah,
3
for us.
per year.
We have 3 that are up this year.
Yeah, it's, Jessica, Shauna, and I think Pete, you're up this year.
Are there any other questions for Kelly?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we got the
Yeah, I'm
update
not
from
gonna-
Mr. Broadbent.
And I'm not gonna speak on the pre-K kindergarten audit, just because I know Mrs. Milfrey did, or Miss Milfrey did. She did
Right.
a great job. I sat in on that initial, when the lady from State Ed came, and I'll be on the conference call on what recommendations they'll give us. Anytime they come in, they give us recommendations. I love when the state comes in, so you can understand what we can do better. Newsletter, we've been having some issues with our newsletter, twice now already. The printing, we sent it out, this September, and then the second one was in November, and they had printing issues at BOCES. So with that moving forward, what would be the board's, if we gave people the option whether to get it electronically or mailed? And do it through, if people want it mailed, they can either call or they can check a box of the paperwork that goes home. The postage is getting a little out of hand. And it's just one thing to look where we could send the newsletter, anybody that has Parent Square could get the newsletter. If people wanted a hard copy, we would send them a hard copy. But I think to have choices, that could save us some money potentially.
Does it go to every taxpayer though?
Goes to every mailbox.
Every mailbox in the,
I've never got a newsletter since my kids.
What's your mailing address?
It's Little Falls, but it's less than the school district.
Little Falls, we have to actually address. The saturations are Newport and Middleville. But Little Falls and Herkimer and all them, Little Falls, Herkimer, Utica, Poland, we have to actually
Could we
physically address.
ask for people to subscribe to the the newsletter, so it doesn't go to, maybe people just throw it in the garbage, they don't care.
Or that's
You
what
know,
I mean, just say,
maybe-
listen, from now on, we're gonna.
You have to
Everybody's
subscribe
got
to
electronic.
it,
Send it
or, I
electronically
mean,
unless
not
if
paid.
you want it,
Unless you
we
want
can
it.
send you a paper copy, but you would have
We need to
to
trim.
contact the
Yeah.
district office, we'd have a
Yeah.
spreadsheet and we'd send those out.
I think
It
even
is a lot.
progress reports, report cards, they shouldn't have.
Can make it
everything
available
on
to the
printed
website.
We are
paper.
looking at all those options moving forward with the report cards. I
And
know
they
a
are
lot of
nice to get,
districts.
and I know probably some of your retired community members that don't have children anymore, they still probably like to.
And I wanna give them the
Yes.
opportunity, but they could contact the district office, say, please put me on the mailing for the newsletter. That list might be
It
50
might
to
cut it
100.
in half.
Right,
It-
that's a
it
lot of
is.
money.
And when you're sending this out 3 times a year,
Well, we just got done saying that cost cutting, I think somebody should look at.
Yep.
We're fresh off a tax increase, I think we should look at these
we're
avenues.
also looking at moving forward eventually with electronic, with the report cards and things like that. A lot of districts around us currently do it, and it's a good feature. Utilize School Tool and utilize these platforms to what they're capable of doing.
100%.
So
You
we
can also
will,
put the newsletter on the website.
yes, we will.
Yeah, it is on the
But we will move forward with looking at these different avenues and how we can still get it out there. I don't want anybody to not get the newsletter that wants it. I just want to make sure that, 85% of the people prefer it electronically, and I still have no problem sending it to the 15%.
It's worth a shot. If it doesn't work, we go back the old.
Right.
Or we might cut it in half.
But it's just looking at all avenues right now.
Good.
Okay, are you gonna just briefly talk about the interview process? and-
Yes. So the interview process right now is when we have openings here, we post them. We use Facebook, we use OLAS, which is more teacher-driven. We get applicants, we have committees, we go over the applicants, we pick the applicants to come in, we do the interview process, and we pick who we feel is the best, for West Canada, who, we see as a fit for West Canada. Not everybody's a fit for each organization, and I think that's where we have to utilize the principals, the directors, in this process. I love having opportunities to, when we post jobs, you want qualified, but the more qualified, the better when you're picking these positions, and that's something I love to see so please, if you're interested in any of the positions here at West Canada, please put an application, and.
And how do you do that?
You can get the applications right on our website, under employment. You can stop in the main office and get an application from Mrs. Ramo. But also, I think Mrs. Ramo's done a fantastic job putting those posts out on Facebook, those colorful posts that catch your eye, so thank you very much. But again, I think the interview process, it's all about fit, and it's all about listening to the committees that we have when we do the interview process.
the non-instructional, if it's a civil service position, we have to go through the whole list process. If there's a list that people that have taken the test, we have to canvass the list. And if we have 3 viable candidates, we have to interview them. And then if we get down to less than 3 candidates, then we can open it to the public. But whoever's appointed has to pass that test with the next time it's given. That's the provisional appointment that was tonight. They'll have to pass the test the next time it's given.
The mechanic.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Oh, and then I had one more, I wanted to add, the BOCES board has representation from every school district. Janine is on the board now representing West Canada, and her seat will be up this year. So I just wanted to let everyone know that there's a seat open if you wanted to run. And the deadline to turn that in is the 17th.
April, or May?
March.
March 17th.
Following announcements, March 11th is Music in Our Schools Month concert, 5 through 12 band. March 13th, Music in Our Schools Month, concert 4 through 12 chorus. March 14th will be a superintendent's conference day, no students. March 14th through 15th, All County is at Central Valley Academy. March 20 through 21 is elementary parent-teacher conferences and UPK registration. March 28th through the 29th is the second annual art show, which will be at 6 o'clock. Where is the art show?
It's usually held right
It's in
here in the
here, it's in
library.
here, in the
Oh,
library.
okay.
It's the same night as the drama.
Okay, and a drama production of Clue, same nights at 7 o'clock. And where can people get tickets for that? Where can you get tickets for Clue?
Clue, the drama, the students are selling them, and I think that they will be, have we got
They
any?
usually bring them into the
main
Okay.
office.
Or if they can call or email, either Mrs. Lang or, actually Mrs. Burton. Like, yes, I think Mrs. Lang.
Mrs. Lang
Okay,
does the job.
thank you. Our next meeting will be April 14th here at 6 p.m. And we were talking earlier, there are 3 open seats this year for school board. And the petitions are due April 21st by 5 p.m., dropped off in the main office today. Any public comments?
I got it, Jeremy, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Your budget workshop, if you could elaborate on your enhanced efficiency and facility maintenance?
Well, I think we're always looking at how we can do a better job and save the district money. And looking at simple things like, bringing in the new mechanic and being able to save some money, whether it's doing work on the kitchen appliances in our cafeteria, having sit-downs, getting multiple bids. I think a lot of it we already do, but we continue to strive to do it better.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
I'm
sorry.
Are we voting on, are we picking a date to vote for BOCES?
We're gonna vote on that day, isn't it?
On that.
We usually
April
have that
16th.
morning, early morning meeting.
It's April 16th.
How are we doing that?
We have to vote for the new people.
We have to
We
vote.
can set it now, or we can talk about it the next meeting.
It's after our next meeting.
Oh,
so
the
we
next
can
meeting
set
we
it
can
at
do
the
it?
next meeting.
Okay, when do we
No,
have
it's
to vote on the
before.
BOCES?
Isn't it the
No.
16th?
April 16th, and our next board meeting is April 21st.
No, our
April
next board meeting is 14th. School board petitions.
Wrong line, sorry. Don't
Okay.
apologize.
So if you, it's okay, we would wait
So
and
if we
see
do
who
it the
will be.
14th, can we do it the 14th?
You can't vote the
we can't-
14th, but you
No.
set the date, you set the time.
Right.
Oh,
The date
okay.
has to be the 16th.
Yeah, we have to vote on the 16th.
Mr. Kemmler, we
So-
set a good 8 o'clock date, and I'll bring in White Rose.
Oh.
Deal.
Sorry, Mr.
I'll be there.
Bring a box.
Oh, I just wanted to say
I
thank you
was,
on
oh,
behalf,
yes, that's right.
I'm sorry, on behalf of the youth basketball program, I'd like to thank you and the facilities for letting us use the gym on the weekend. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. That's part of the winner. But thank you.
So we'll set it for sure next meeting and see, make sure we can come. Motion to adjourn. Janine first, Shauna second, all in favor.
60 degrees tomorrow.